There is nothing wrong with your internet. Do not attempt to adjust your settings. We are controlling the podcast. We control the squealing and the screams. We can make your heart flutter, your eyes blur from tears, or sharpen your mind to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit back. We are in control of what you hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your settings. You are about to experience the awe and mystery known as the female mind. You are now entering the Fangirl Zone.
Welcome to 47 Survivors on the Fangirl Zone, a podcast on the ABC TV series The Crossing. I'm Terry.
And I'm Steve, and we'll be discussing episode 2 of season 1 of The Crossing.
All right.
Unfortunately, Sean's schedule prevented her from joining us today. Yes, unfortunately.
So we're S-less.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm still S. I'm just not fangirl-esque.
You're not fangirl-esque, right. Hope you get through your stuff, Sean.
Yeah. All right. We got some rating news. Episode 1's ratings was a 1.0 and a 4 share in adults 18 to 49 with 5.45 million viewers, which made it the number 1 show in its time slot.
Woohoo!
Now, episode 2 came in with a 0.8 and a 3 share in adults 18 to 49 with 4.48 million viewers. Yes, it did decline some, but it was still less than the average 20% decline that all shows go through from episode 1 to episode 2. So
That's true. That's true. They do drop. Yep.
Yep. So not all doom and gloom here, people.
Not shabby. Yeah, not shabby. I'll take it.
Yep. Not too bad.
I'm not even on the TV series, and I'll take it. Yeah, cool. Keep watching, folks. All right, so let's get into some general talk about the episode here. As Steve said, this is the second episode. It was titled A Shadow Out of Time. And a little synopsis we have here to lead us in is in a flash forward to the year 2187. So we get our first look into the future from whence they came. Reese finds Leah, an orphan common baby, and goes against her Apex cohorts to take her in as her own. In present day, Jude, hoping for a peaceful solution with the feds, is blindsided by a mysterious black ops team intent on capturing Reese by any means necessary. Boo.
Yeah, exactly.
As soon as I heard them choppers, I was just like the FBI agent. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So I think we can safely assume before we get into the items here that they're monitoring the phones. Because he's the one that gave her the location. So where else?
Well, Emma called her boss.
Yeah.
And that was what did it right there.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's because she did call him. Yeah. Yep. I forgot that. Yep. So, all right. Never mind that. So let's get into some of the specifics here. Let's start with some of the locals. Let's talk about Jude, our favorite sheriff from the beach. He takes Reese to the beach to find her daughter, but everybody has been moved.
Yeah, it's completely deserted.
No FBI, no government, no tents, no makeshift shelters, nothing. The beach is deserted, people. So he goes back to his home and he tells Reese to stay put while he figures out where her daughter was taken. You know that wasn't going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. And that was Jude's first mistake. He made 2 in this episode, and they both cost him pretty big time.
Huge. The minute you saw Reese going through a drawer in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Not that they couldn't have had her character just rummage around and because everything's so different. Like, what's this thing for? Like looking at a fork. Looking at a fork of all things. Because everything's so different. Like food is different and everything we saw in the first episode. So, but I got the feeling the minute she looked through the first drawer, I was like, she ain't staying.
No, not at all.
No. And then he has his buddy who was on the beach with him, finding the bodies in the pilot episode. Nestor, he has him follow Emma.
Which was probably the smartest thing he did in the episode.
Yeah. When I saw him have him follow her, I was like, there you go, Jude.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust her, at least right now, or is she kind of caught in the middle as well? From Jude's standpoint, I wouldn't trust her either.
Right.
I wouldn't trust anybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the theme that we're getting right now is you can't trust anybody.
Yeah. Wow. Stone Cold Steve Austin was right. So, he has her follow Emma and get some information, quite interesting later. And then we hear a little bit about Jude's past. We get a little teaser snippet of it where he calls and talks with a lawyer that he knows.
Right. Which had to be a lawyer that he's had some dealing with and who actually mentions the Doucette case.
Yeah.
And you go,
Things that make you go,
Yeah, because, of course, he's asking about helping a woman who could possibly be a criminal find her daughter, and what are my liabilities if I help her, and kind of go, well, I can understand him wanting to know this.
Right.
But it sure seems like it's eerily similar to something that he went through in Oakland and why he's now in this small town, to me at least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's quite this dark past, but whatever it was, it caused his marriage to break up as well.
Yeah, and I kind of got the impression, even though it wasn't implicitly said, and if I remember correctly from the pilot episode, it wasn't even strongly hinted at, his being there at Port Canaan, I had kind of suspected might have had something to do with his marriage.
Right.
But if it was that serious, the wife might have fought for sole custody and no visitation and might have gotten it, and therefore we wouldn't have seen her come later in the episode with the boy so that he could have time with him to go fishing.
Right.
And spend some time with him. So, yeah, the marriage seems to be the collateral damage.
Right. I think you're right, because
even
when she does walk in with his son, you don't see a lot of hate in her eyes.
No.
So
she's smiling, when the boy, he's like, hey, buddy, and the boy runs into his arms, and when the camera pans up and he's holding the kid up, you see her face and she's smiling and everything. And
right. So you don't get any indication, at least from her, that there's a ton of animosity between them.
No, not at all. And either they're going to bring her in for something else, or she was just there. They didn't give her hardly anything to do except walk in.
Right.
After they go into the house, at least just step in. Yeah, so I don't know. It could have been a case with a mother and her child that he screwed up.
Right.
I'm kind of thinking, I wouldn't call it a direct corollary, kind of back to the David Tennant series, Grace Point, here in the States, which was a remake of Broadchurch.
Right.
And that detective with a dark past working on a case where he was intentionally working on a case. Here, Jude has kind of taken himself out of, not literally in New York City, but out of some sort of a ground zero situation.
Right.
Yeah. So the lawyer that he spoke with, he was in a hallway at some office building, and then he was standing in front of like a frosted window. And what was the logo? Was that FBI or was that Homeland Security that this lawyer was talking to him? Did you catch that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, the lawyer was like in an office setting.
Right.
Jude was outside, which I thought, it's a small town. Why would you? Yeah. And everybody knows these refugees are here, and you're standing outside like Pop's Corner Store or whatever it is, you're talking on a phone to the lawyer. I thought the lawyer, he was in some kind of office. He stood nearby, and in the background there was like this big frosted window, I guess like to an office, and there was a logo. I think it might have been Homeland Security.
Could be.
So it might have been a lawyer who defended him.
Oh, absolutely. I think it is.
In a case of some kind, but a lawyer who has some sort of affiliation now, if not then as well, with Homeland Security or some government agency.
Right.
Yeah. So it sounds like Jude's got his own dark past, and boy, we'd like to know what made him leave that city.
Yeah.
definitely that case, and something definitely went awry. So he finds Reese and takes her to a shipyard, telling her that Leia's going to be brought there.
Second mistake he made.
Yeah.
Though his intentions were good.
His execution was not so good.
Right, yeah, and the outcome was even worse, so.
Yeah, he was a little overreactive.
Yeah.
And I can see him doing that. I mean, look at the way she was when he put her in that room.
Oh, good Lord, yes.
I mean, she's firing weapons and the glass looks like it doesn't break through, but it shattered.
Right.
And then she's firing inside the room, I guess at the door or whatever, and he's trying to tell her you're wasting ammo. Why would you care if she's wasting ammo?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like some of his too niceness coming out. You're wasting ammo.
Yeah.
What do you care? She's locked in a room, dude. And if she's shooting at you through the window, she's a threat.
Yeah.
So, boom.
Yeah. Locking her in there in the first place just put you on her bad list, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not a list you want to be on.
No.
So then he makes yet another mistake. He calls Emma up and wants her to meet them at the shipyard. Now, he's pretty PO'd at her. Or, well, not PO'd yet. He's still not trusting her. And he calls her and, okay, and the three of us will meet and we'll talk.
Right.
And he lets her know that he knows where the refugees are.
Right.
Which I'm wondering, well, she did call her superior, no matter what. I'm just wondering if he had just said, let's the three of us talk and left it at that. But I guess he figured now, that was a bargaining chip.
Right. And Emma wants Reese almost as bad as Lindmeier does.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of what she did to one of her agents, not because they come from the same place, but.
Yeah, right. And I don't blame her.
No, not at all. She's trying to do things by the book, at least.
Sure. Question is, which book off the shelf are they using?
Yeah.
It's like Rowdy, here's another wrestling reference. This is our wrestling episode. Roddy Piper used to say, I'm going to call the match, if he was a ref, I'll call the match right down the middle, wherever I happen to see the middle to be.
Right.
So he wants him to meet at the shipyard, and Reese is locked in the container. But then, and like I said, before we started, as soon as I heard these choppers coming, and I think we all did, just like Emma driving in the car to the shipyard, you knew that it was going down fast.
Right. And not the way they thought it was going to.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Jude gets gassed, and that was a little scary, all those little lasers on his face, all the target lasers.
Yeah.
I mean, he was out, but still that image, I was like, whoa, that wouldn't have made me too happy.
No. And he sure wasn't very happy when he woke up several hours later in his car.
Yeah, I think the initials P.O. come to mind. And then they go into the room where Reese is locked, and she's on the ground. And within like a second or two, my thought was, she sat there to like meditate. She didn't kill herself. And then I was like, where's the gun?
Right.
Well, of course, the gun was right underneath her. She was trying to calm him down, making them think that she was out.
Right.
And it turns out she had the gun underneath her, and she flips around and fires the gun very quickly.
Yeah.
And makes her escape. Not after before getting hit. We see her later. Was that the arm or the torso? The upper part of the torso?
Yeah.
Shoulder? Yeah. So they get her right before she makes her escape by diving into the water. I would have figured you would have had enough of large bodies of water after how you came over here, but apparently that's the only option she had, and I guess she can't fly. She can leap like Superman in the pilot.
Right.
Apparently she can't fly without assistance, so. So that was a really intense scene at the shipyard. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, Jude wakes up hours later by the vibrate on his phone.
Right.
I thought that was television suspending disbelief. A phone sitting on, I guess that looked like leather seats.
Right.
And not like a countertop or something. And it's not in your hand or on your body, so you feel it. And that's what woke Jude up? Okay.
Yeah.
He wakes up, and then when Emma calls him, or not Emma. Emma calls him. Yeah, capital P, capital O.
Yeah.
This is where the trust really breaks down. I thought we had an agreement, and then all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm getting gassed. And Emma's like, wasn't my call.
Yeah.
You think Jude believes her?
I kind of doubt it.
Me too.
Right now.
Yeah, he might later, or might say in his mind, I'll give you a pass. But, yeah, I wouldn't believe her.
No. Well, I've determined that Deputy Nestor is definitely going to be the comic relief in this series.
Yeah. Yeah.
As he shows up at Jude's home first thing in the morning, wanting a cold brew. And you go,
yeah.
Dude, really? The dog kept me up all night.
Yeah, the cornflakes didn't go down your throat easily enough. You need a brew.
And then when he doesn't get to come inside, he puts 2 and 2 together real quick and figures Jude's got a woman in his house.
Oh, yeah.
And he wants all the spicy details of what happened the night before.
Yeah, I know you get lonely. If he only, well, he's half right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope he does. Although they kind of got back serious to when, or before that, he was serious when he shows him that map.
Right.
And then Jude kind of dismisses it, and then he kind of exits the office. But yeah, I think he could be the comic relief for this series, yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. I don't see anybody else who could right now.
No, not at all.
That nobody even has a hint.
No. Of course, he informs Jude that Emma was talking to Marshall. And of course, that's what caused Jude to leave the house with Reese in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that a coinky dink?
Yeah. And I was just probably a little surprised that he was able to follow Emma without being noticed.
Yeah, you think she'd be smarter.
Yeah.
But maybe
the deputy following her.
Was he in a marked car or not?
Yeah, pretty sure it was.
Okay. Well, it could be one of two things. One of three things. Either she was so focused on what's going on and that she wasn't paying attention. 2, she's not that good in noticing she's being surveilled. Or 3, Nestor had home court advantage.
Right. Now that could have been it as well.
That's what I'm kind of leaning towards, that he knew when to lay back and to kind of go in and duck out and side to side and stuff like that, where he wouldn't be noticed because he knows the lay of the land, where she doesn't.
Right. And he couldn't get all the way to the camp, but he got to where the road was, and he knew exactly what was at the end of that road, that there was a closed camp there that would hold 50 people easily. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that's the camp we saw in the pilot that they went to. I think it was at nighttime they took him, wasn't it? Yeah. So that's the same camp. Yeah. So he was smart enough, not that you have to be a genius, but he's smart enough as a deputy to go there and then look it up, I would imagine, on a GPS map, and then just widen the scope, and then all of a sudden it'll come up on what's over here? Right.
Oh, well, that's it. Or he just knew the road that she was on. It's a service road. I couldn't follow her anymore because there were some other feds.
Right.
But he's a local. He knows that service road will take you to this camp.
Right. Because he mentions that's where he lost his virginity.
Yeah.
So he knows exactly where it's at.
Could you imagine Nestor's GPS setup? It's like, when the map goes over this camp, it's like, where you lost your virginity. He's got all kinds of...
Yeah, a female voice to remind him of that instead of a voice.
You lost your virginity.
We get to meet a new deputy in this episode, Deputy Rollins, who calls Jude and asks about his car.
Yeah, go figure this.
Yeah, I swear it's your car.
No, it's not. It's in the garage, and the engine is, what did he say, out or disabled or something?
Yeah, the engine was out of the car.
And she, by reading the manual, reassembled and got it to work.
Right. That's pretty amazing.
Well, that's another sign that she's an apex.
Right.
And we had a curve thrown to us, at least back and forth, to my eyes. We had a curve one way and then thrown back the other way about who's apex and who's the common folk.
Exactly.
And it seems like
a big curve of this episode.
It was a double swerve because it was like, here comes the first, like, oh my God, this undersecretary is really a common.
Right.
It's like, and he's talking about the apex folks in the negative, and that the black gentleman who just wanted it. And he's like, I'll tell you, when I find out, I'll tell you where the apex is. They referred to Reese in the third person. And he's like, you got to, do it by the book or whatever. And he's like, no, there will be no mercy.
Yeah, there will be torture.
There will be torture, and it's like, oh my God, they're not the apex. They're the commoners. And then we get another curve later on. I'm putting the carriage before the horse with a phone call.
Right.
That the undersecretary, talks to, I guess, his boss at Homeland Security and shows him all of these videos. And he convinces this boss of his or whatever that, he should be the one in charge of the camp.
Right. Even though he's handling, 50,000 refugees in camps all across the country?
Yeah, holy moly.
Oh, well, it's only 47 more. I can do it.
Now, here's my question. Now, the 50,000 they mention all over the country. I guess I'm just being like a dumb viewer here, just to bounce it off of you. Are these refugees that we're saying they know are connected with showing up out of nowhere or out of the water? Or are these just all the refugees that we have everywhere?
I think that's just all of them that we have everywhere.
That's what I was thought.
Yeah, I don't think we've had 50,000 make it from 2187 back to 2018.
No. Oh, and to that point, let me do a little house cleaning. Last week we were talking about the total number of people that came through, and I think I had said, and we were all saying like 200 or 300. It was actually 500.
Right.
So my goof. Yeah, that's what I thought. It was just the total. So yeah, he's like, these are just 47. I'll handle this. Let me take this off your plate.
Yeah, and no need to give it to the Bureau because his boss was wanting to hand it over to.
Oh yeah, whoever.
That's the FBI, but
sure. Yeah, and to me that was there's your suspicion, and I thought, okay, but the guy eventually, gives in and says, okay, the camp is yours.
Yeah.
And he walks out of the room, and I was like, I guess I could see him wanting to lighten the load. It's a small number, but at least I'm sure that they're seeing the 47 as a case.
Right.
One collective case. So, okay, take this one off my plate. All right, fine. And then we have the swerve on top of the swerve. And didn't they mention earlier in this episode somebody named, unless I misheard it, Eve?
Right. Yeah. When he's talking to who I'm considering the group's security person.
Right.
The guy that mentions torture, he says that, yes, Eve will be landing soon.
So, and then he talks to her and we only see her in relative silhouette. She's lit a little bit, but we only see her from behind.
Right.
And she's apparently at some place that has a pool that looked like through the doorway. It looked like water reflecting on a
pool or a lake or ocean, something like that. Yeah.
And then she throws yet another curve upon a curve. She was saying about the 47, they can't, They can't be let out, or the word can't get out because, it's not.
They have no future.
They have no future.
Because they cannot have their plans disturbed by the new arrivals.
Right. So
it sounds like the 47 don't have much of a chance right now.
Unless, and this would be the only thing that would keep it at one curve, although I don't doubt the writers, because to me that's a pretty slick move to have a swerve and then yet another swerve on top of that.
Right.
Unless this undersecretary and this Eve are indeed commoners. Neither one of them are apex.
Right.
And this new group might end up, screwing up the plans of the commoners to go after the apex folk.
Right.
Now, how they would do that, I don't know. Just by showing up, that screws up your plans. It could.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're changing history.
Yeah.
You're letting people know that this is what's going to happen in the future. And
so that's why I'm thinking it could be really just one huge swerve.
Yeah.
That the undersecretary and this Eve are commoners as well. They've been there already. We saw in the last episode the one guy from the camp who met with the undersecretary, and he tells him, we've been here longer than you think.
Right.
Yeah. I think if you're going to meddle with time, leave it to a Time Lord.
Yeah, exactly.
And even they screw it up sometimes. But if you're going to go back and forth and tinker with time, don't leave it to the amateurs. Leave it to the professionals.
Yeah. Now,
so I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting that Lindauer does have Emma get DNA samples from everybody.
Yeah, and that to me was an odd move, unless that first batch that Lindauer was part of brought some sort of tech with him, because the DNA would not come up on any database.
Right. And it's their database that they brought with them. That's
it. Yeah. I mean, so they exactly know who survived of this new bunch. But yeah, because it was already established last week in the pilot that you gave us birth dates that are nearly 150 years in the future.
Right.
So how you got, and I think, and they didn't make much of it in the pilot, and we saw it in the previews for the series where they even had a picture of a scan of a hand, I guess for like fingerprints and what your hand looks like. And so, yeah, they would have to have brought some tech with them.
Right. And just in case this happened and they need to, shall we say, eliminate the 47.
Right.
By eliminating their relatives at the time in 2018. Their great grandparents or something like that.
Right. Because it could be, because they made it sound like the 500 that went on this trip that we have the 47 from, of this group that, not the previous group. They kind of made it like they didn't know if it was going to work.
Right.
They had supposedly time travel. They could bend time. And they kind of really made it seem like it was kind of a mad dash or an unorganized, without drawing numbers, lottery type thing of those of that 500 that got to make this trip.
Right. Yeah. It was basically, we're doing this on this day. If you got the money, get here and you can go.
So maybe the first group that Lindauer's part of, maybe it was an organized, planned, set move.
Right. Absolutely.
A la the Terminator.
Yes.
Like you're in the future, go back to the past, screw with it, and then the future changes. Yeah. So that would kind of make sense that perhaps they did have tech, and maybe the first group was intentional.
Right.
So that's why I'm thinking if Eve is also a commoner, then it's just not two swerves on top of each other. It's one massive. So, and either way is brilliant by the writers. I want to find out more about Eve. I'm not like, oh, she's just some shadowy character. The heck with her. I want to find out about her. So whether it's two on top of each other or one massive, big thumbs up.
Right.
Already. It's only the second episode. This is great. There was a reason why they spilled that beans in the pilot.
Exactly.
We were saying, well, hopefully they have a reason.
Yeah.
and
in the second episode.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, that's big props. Big props. I'm digging it. I guess we can, we talked about the car and all this stuff. Yeah, the mugger was from the previous one where he got his rear end handed to him by Reese.
Yeah.
So, it's like
he's been a thorn in Jude's backside for a while, because Jude definitely says he got what he deserved.
And I think he even said to him when he first comes into the main office area and where he's sitting at the desk, I guess he's getting booked. Jude says something to the effect of "Welcome back" or something, or "We got a room saved for you."
Exactly. Got
just
your
like
name on it.
Just like you go back to your mom and dad's house. Oh, we left your room the way you had it.
Exactly.
That's not creepy, is it? So, let's go on to talk about the government here. We've covered
Lindauer and the others from the first group.
Mm-hmm.
So we still got our rookie Homeland Security officer, Bryce Foster.
Oh, yeah.
Who,
Mr. Lovelorn.
Well, no, that's the Marine.
Oh, that's the younger one. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Bryce was is the one who they were reviewing the tapes, and he's starting to believe that maybe these people are from the future. And of course, Emma has him get everybody for the DNA tests, and they get down to the very last one, and of course it's Leah.
Of course.
So we'll get into that here when we talk about the survivors. But yeah, good old Marine guard Roy happens to pop in on Hannah and check on her.
So let's go back.
But it looks like you got it all under control.
Yeah,
the only thing I brought with me was a necklace, and I lost that in the water.
Yeah. You want to go look in the water for me? That's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go get some scuba gear and look for it. Prove your pre-love love for me. Let's go back to Bryce real quick. I think it's kind of a non sequitur here, but Bryce giving Lindauer, control, charge of the camp and all. Will Bryce, I don't think we have enough to say one way or the other. This is total speculation. Will Bryce, the fact that Lindauer wanted to keep this so hush-hush, have someone watch Lindauer? Because I got no impression that he was also a commoner, because he initially didn't want Lindauer to keep it hush-hush and to take it himself.
Right, yeah. I don't think Lindauer's boss has anything to do with the first group.
No, I think he's a 2018 straight up, he's from now kind of a person.
Right, but
will he have Lindauer watch, though?
That is very possible, because Brian Markinson, who is the actor playing this role, is an absolute fantastic actor that I could very easily see this character turn into something a whole lot more. And I certainly hope so, because the man is amazing. And I hope we get to see more of him.
Yeah, we don't have enough to go on right now. It's total speculation.
Speculation. I mean, they didn't even give the guy a name in the IMDb page.
Yeah, go figure. Yeah,
I said Brian Markinson.
Brian Markinson. Yeah, I don't think he's from the future. I think he's a 21st century guy. So I don't think that he, obviously, therefore, by default, he's not a commoner or an apex.
Right.
But part of me is like, Lindauer wanting to keep it so hush-hush makes sense, because you don't want this word to get out to people.
Right, that you got people from the future.
Yeah, it would be the same thing as if you actually said, Area 51, we really have aliens.
Exactly.
I mean, if the government really has them, they're keeping a really tight lip on it. Who knows? And as long as they ain't bothering anybody, I don't give a hoot. But also, it could go the other way, that his wanting to keep it so quiet within the chain of command.
Right.
Okay, because there was nowhere that Lindauer said whoever Bryce wanted to pass it up, run it up the flag
or something. Yeah.
Yeah. He didn't say anything about, well, we can't trust them. They've had a series of leaks lately. They didn't write that into the history of the show, that. So will he have said, okay, you've got it? And did he give him that to let him prove himself and he's going to watch him? Or is it simply nothing more than he took it off my plate? Okay.
I hope it's more like you do. I really do.
Yeah, you go.
To get Brian Markinson to play that role, there's got to be more to it than that.
There you go. So we'll have to see. I just wanted to jump back and talk about Bryce that way, just to put that in there. Like I said, we've got nothing to go on that they gave us, other than it seems like he's definitely not a future guy.
Right. Now, of course, with Agent Emma Wren, she disputes working with the sheriff as she's talking to Marshall.
Right.
And yeah, she's still really standoffish with Jude for the most part during the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when they finally get Leah in for her DNA, they discover the rash.
Uh-oh.
And of course, Rebecca identifies it as Mantle's disease.
Right off the bat, yep.
And Emma rushes her into quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So that means one thing and one thing only. We get Georgina next week.
Yes! Georgina Haig, a really great actress. People that love fantasy, fantastical kind of TV series will remember her from Once Upon a Time.
Yes.
where she played Elsa from Frozen, the Ice Queen. And Steve and I know her, and a lot of other fans know her from Fringe, the old Fox TV series, as Henrietta, or just simply Etta. God, we miss you, Etta. So it'll be great to see her back on the TV screen again next week.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, she was in the preview like, I'm here to prevent a pandemic.
Yeah. And you may be right.
Yeah, more than even they know.
Yeah. Unless there's been some biology changes in the human race between now and 21 something.
Well, certainly for the
when they just
2178 or something.
Well, it was 87.
When they did, yeah.
Reese got Leah, but
they had to have started before.
Right, because they actually see a couple people that had already died of it.
Yeah.
In that building. So.
Well, certainly the makeup, whether it's DNA or not, of the Apex folk, they mentioned it in this episode a little more explanatory that's been changed,
right,
to some degree. Now, whether or not, I forget if they mentioned it, and if they didn't, whether or not they're going to say that it changes your DNA. I don't think it does. It just seems like it's changed other abilities. It's heightened certain abilities and characteristics.
Right. Yeah. They're genetically altered.
So somehow, yeah, genetically, yeah. DNA, we don't know, but genetically.
But
yeah, so definitely they've been changed.
Right. And the Mannel's disease doesn't affect them.
Right.
So.
Lucky jerks.
Yeah. Well, they did it on purpose.
Oh, yeah. Well.
So, of course, Reese informs Lindauer of the meeting, with Reese and Jude being the good soldier she is.
Right.
You go, oh.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then when Jude calls all mad at her, she tells her she had no idea about the SEAL team, but wants to tell him something.
How many licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop. I've been wanting to know that for decades.
Exactly. But I'm thinking it's probably something else.
Yeah, probably.
And could it possibly have anything to do with Leah's disease? Because if they have a contagious disease issue in the camp, he needs to know about it so he can keep people as far away as possible so it doesn't become a pandemic.
Yeah, that could be it.
That's the thing that makes any sense, knowing as much as we do about Emma. She's very by the book, and to me, that would be the first thing that she would want to do, would be notify the local authorities that there is a possibility we have a situation here.
Well, it would seem they already have the setup for a quarantine, a larger.
They already had a tent set up for quarantine.
Yeah, they already have that, but even having everybody at that camp, if they're afraid that anybody beyond Leo, I mean, they could just look at the skin and look at the face and all to see, but if they're worried about a massive thing, they already have them secluded in this camp.
Right.
Which kind of lends itself to being a quarantine area, the whole area.
Right.
You know, so it could be that that's what she wants to tell him. My question is, how open is he going to be to want to hear that?
Exactly. After he thinks that she basically ratted him out to the Black Ops.
Right.
He basically tells her, no, I don't want anything to do with you or with this. I want to spend some time with my son, and hangs up.
There you go. And I don't blame him.
No.
And right after he gets off the phone, like within 2 beats, the doorbell rings, and it's his mom bringing their son to see him. I'm like, oh, man.
Yeah.
You know, like he straightened up the house, and it's like, I'd forgotten that he had the call earlier with his son.
Right.
So I'm seeing him like he's splashing water in his face, and he's straightening up the kitchen, which it didn't look like he had a lot to do. And then the call, and then the son. And I was like, oh, man. Jeez. He's going to be needing quite a few brews.
Yeah.
I don't know if he drinks in front of his son or not. Probably not, because he's young. But, yeah, he's going to be like, I need something stronger than a brew.
Yeah.
At 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, God, this was, like, insane.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the survivors. Let's start with Hannah and Paul.
Well, that's an interesting pairing.
Yeah, because this guy kind of comes out of nowhere and pays a visit to Miss Hannah, who's just kind of chilling out on her porch and enjoying the peace and quiet.
Yeah. And Paul's like, I couldn't sleep,
It was
which
too
doesn't,
quiet.
yeah, which doesn't surprise me about actually any of them.
Right.
But Paul, not that there's anything particular about him. I don't know. Just for some reason, I got that vibe that he wouldn't be able to sleep because it's too quiet.
Right.
Any of them, actually. I mean, then again, you could figure, maybe the future where people live is a lot quieter. Maybe they figured out how to curb crime, and so even the cities, you just have the noise of vehicles going up and down the street and footsteps on the sidewalk, and that's it.
Right.
But I can imagine they wouldn't like it. But yeah, they're having their little chat. I couldn't sleep. Too quiet.
And they're bringing in additional guards.
Yeah, and he doesn't like it.
No, he's not happy about it. Hannah goes, hey, I feel safer.
Yeah.
He goes, this girl's not going to get bothered by anything. She's just glad to be out of wherever she was.
Yeah. And she's got kind of her sights set on Love Lauren Roy. So I think she's trying to stay. And it could be a little difference in ages. Not that Paul's really old, but I think could be a different in ages and perspective.
Right.
That, she's like, we're out of harm's way, at least as far as we can tell for now.
Right.
There are guards here. Oh, we got more guards. Okay. Well, that would keep bad people away.
Right.
As opposed to looking at it as probably Paul does, even though he doesn't articulate it, of they're keeping people in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not one to be wanting to be kept in, I have a feeling.
Yeah. Is that just he's a nervous dude, or maybe he is a criminal of some kind and was in some kind of trouble?
I have a feeling he was a person of ill repute, shall we say.
There you go. I'm torn from what little we saw of him here in this episode. I'm torn. It could be that, and I'm equally leaning towards coming from the future and trying to get away from or to solve the problem of the Apex folk, that he doesn't feel any safer now without even committing a crime.
Yeah.
Any safer now than he did then. It's just that then in the future, he knew the enemy, or at least he knew enough of it for his own worries and concerns. Here, they're not even familiar with the food.
Right.
And so it's like a whole brand new, like Lost in Space. You're going to a whole new planet and you don't know what their customs are like. It's even Star Trek, different cultures out in space.
Right.
And you have no clue. So it could be that he doesn't want to get found out, maybe. And I'm thinking they're not going to find you out because all the records, if they have them, are in the future. They don't have them yet.
Yeah.
So maybe you're just a nervous criminal, or he's like better an enemy known than an enemy unknown.
Right.
Could go either way. Yeah, but he's definitely not cool with the situation. Yeah.
And so we go to Leah and we find out she hasn't ate since arriving. And you go, that's bad. Be good. She's a young child. She should be.
I like Rebecca's like, you're going to turn into nothing, or you're going to disappear, or whatever she said.
Right.
And she's just a little kid. I mean, and she's not a heavy kid. She doesn't have a lot of fat cell reserves to last without eating.
Right. And she is brought a plate of fruit, and you'd think that a kid would go,
yeah,
well, I don't know what this is, but at least try it and go, oh, this is kind of sweet. This is good.
Yeah. Well, maybe she likes chocolate.
Yeah, maybe.
Which would get extra points from me.
Yeah.
Because chocolate is a major food group. Thank you very much.
Sean would totally agree with you there.
Yeah, I want to vie for the position of president of the Sean. Chocolate is a major food group committee.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and the poor girl's missing her mom. Now here's the question. Reese tells Jude, he's like, I need to know, this is when he has her in the house, I need to know I can trust you. Yeah, good luck with that.
Right.
And she says, basically, I just need to get to my daughter, or I want to find my daughter.
Right.
Or be with her, whatever. So now here's the thing. She needs to get with her daughter so that, A, she can cure what's up with her. B,
that is the main thing I think that is driving. I mean, yes, she cares. She loves Leah to death.
Sure.
But she also knows that if she doesn't get her that transfusion of her blood, the disease will kill her. Because that's what she's been doing, is basically keeping Leah alive by giving her transfusions of her own blood.
Right.
Within, I don't know if it's quarterly, if it's monthly or what, but whatever it is, whatever the time frame between transfusions is, that's when she's doing it. And she apparently knows it's close to that time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I would say that's probably the likelihood. The only thing that would make me say, not that it isn't true, but just less of a likelihood, she never words it. And is she doing that intentionally? She never words it as she needs me to be with her.
Right.
She just says, I want to be with her. I want to find my daughter. I just want to know where my daughter is. I want to be with her. Leaves it a little bit broad. You can still get the transfusions to the kid either way, whether you say it or not, but she's not saying she needs me because. So obviously she's either hiding it or she's still not trusting Jude, which I would certainly accept as real.
Right.
Neither one trusts the other.
Yes.
And I think after all this, he might trust her less, even though the Black Ops took him out and she got away from them.
Right.
So that's not really Reese's fault. He's the one who locked her up. But anyway, or is it that, is she planning to, and I think this is less likely, is she planning to use, or Leia rather, for something else? I don't know, something Apex-y. I don't see that as likelihood. It seems more that, she just needs to give her the transfusions.
Right.
To try to keep it at bay, at least. It's not curing it.
Right. It won't, it's not a cure. It just keeps her well.
Because it looked worse this week, at least to my eyes.
Right. It did.
Yeah, because like the pilot, it looked like red and it looked like these puckered circles. And now her arm, her forearm just looks like almost totally red.
Right.
And I'm like, that's not good.
No.
So could it be something Apex-y? Maybe, but I think what you're saying is likely. It's just, I don't know if that's just the way the writers are writing it and they're not giving it a second thought, or if they're having her say it that way. But to me, if she
yeah, it's that she definitely doesn't want anybody to know that Leah has the disease, for one, because there's no telling what they will do to her until they try to find a cure for it.
Right.
But
she would be,
there won't be a cure for it. It'll eventually kill her.
But Reese would be smart enough, if she's an Apex, I shouldn't say if, since she's an Apex, she would be smart enough to know that in the year 2018, at least, if not known about and in development, it hasn't been executed yet, of having commoners and Apex as the dividing line.
Right.
In society. That she would know to say something to Jude, look, she's got this disease. This is something that happens in the future. I can help her. The only problem, to me, that would build some sympathy. The only problem is, Jude would say, and this is probably bolstering your argument.
Right.
The only problem is Jude would say, how would that be? I would have to give her a blood transfusion. At some point, he's going to say, how has this come about? And maybe he's going to have to get her to say, well, we've got commoners and Apex. And of course, Jude is going to be like, what?
Yeah. Well, he knows Reese is different and probably different from the others, but we don't know that for a fact yet.
Right. Yeah, we don't know how many of the 47. We're making the assumption, and I think as far as what the writers want, correctly so,
right,
that these 47 refugees, including Leia, are commoners.
Right.
And that the only one that came through that's an Apex of this cycle, let's say, this round,
right,
is Reese.
Yes.
So, I mean, she could even cloud the issue to try to build some sympathy and maybe some trust, gain some trust from Jude by saying she has a disease, the only thing that keeps it at bay so that it doesn't get any worse, and I've never contracted it from her, she could not tell him why,
right,
is for me to provide blood transfusions, give her some of my blood to keep it at bay. I think if she clouded it by not telling the whole story, but gave Jude that much, it might build some trust. But obviously, and rightfully so, neither one trusts the other. So,
right.
So I don't know. It could be just me just nitpicking semantics, but I just think that she's wording it in a way that doesn't necessarily build trust of
sympathy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's this child, she's a child. You've talked to her. You've seen she's a child. I've got a way to help her.
Right.
Physically, so.
And not last but not least is Reese.
Oh, yeah.
And we get a flashback, flash forward to 2187, depending on your point of view.
Is that because the old defunct series Flash Forward was also on ABC? Is that why you brought that up?
Everybody, they've promoted it as the next Lost. Well, I'm going to take it one step further and say, let's think about Flash Forward here.
There you go.
So Reese and her Apex partner find baby Leah.
Right. And this scene was intense.
Yeah. Despite concern from her partner, Reese decides she's going to keep the baby. And you go, all right. Now, apparently the Apex are all pretty much the same.
Seems like it.
Except Reese. Because Reese is able to have empathy for commons when none of the other Apexes seem capable of that.
Correct.
They treat commoners as animals.
Because he was going to shoot the baby saying she's weak.
Right.
Because she's a commoner, ergo she's weak, so she needs to be taken out.
Right.
Yeah.
And only the exceptional children of the commoners are kept alive.
Mm-hmm.
But for what? Testing?
Well, it could be to turn them into Apex, because they're setting this up that Apexes aren't necessarily born, they're created. It seems like now after you have a generation of giving birth, Apexes being impregnated by other Apexes, it could be that that's passed on genetically, but It seems like that the Apexes came into being, as we said earlier, through genetic modification.
Right. And of course, her partner mentions that, we could petition for procreation
something
abilities or
I'm not giving up this baby. Back off.
Yeah.
She's not buying
love for her.
Yeah. Interesting way to say it.
Yes, it really was.
Instead of saying I love her, it's like I feel love for her.
Yeah.
Reminded me of the Observers on Fringe.
Yes, just a little bit.
What was that? August was the one said, I think what I feel for her is what they call love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And once Leah shows signs of the Mantle disease, Reese contacts a doctor of, shall we say, ill repute.
Yeah. I don't think he's listed in the Yellow Pages.
No, I don't think he's an Apex approved doctor.
No, not at all. No.
And he comes to see her and, of course, figures that, yes, if they do the transfusion, that might be able to stave it off. And Reese is all for it, except her partner decides, no, it's time to turn her into the government, who
big mouth
arrest her for treason.
Big mouth.
Exactly. Though it was sharp that she happened to be working on a case where she was investigating rumors of somebody trying to bend time.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then, as they're basically telling her what's going to happen to her, you kind of see her pick her foot up and slide it back in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just makes her move.
I mean, yeah.
Takes out one guard, takes out the higher ups.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't shoot her partner, though,
Mm-mm.
which is a little unusual because you would think if he turned her in, he'd be the first one to get shot.
Maybe she feels love for him, too.
I guess. He seemed pretty much of a observer type, that's for sure. Very cold and logical.
But definitely all in on the big Apex picture.
Right. Oh, yeah. He's totally drinking the Apex Kool-Aid.
And when he says to her, when they're in front of the baby she says something nice about it or whatever, he looks at her and says, I forget the tense of the verb. I worry about you, or I'm worried about you.
Right.
Did he start to worry about her in that moment because she was showing compassion for a commoner?
Right.
Or was this a pattern of worries about her? And if so, will we ever see what other actions that she took or didn't take to give him that concern.
Right.
Yeah. Because I'd like to know more about their relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to know what the deal is there.
Now, of course, we also find out she could be psychic, or at least have Superman hearing, because she informs Jude somebody's at the house before Nestor actually knocks on the door. What the hell?
She's the bionic woman.
Yeah.
Man.
And we already talked about her rebuilding an engine and learning how to drive a car.
Yeah.
At high speeds, no less.
Yeah. Yeah, no less. Yeah. And you don't learn that from an engine manual.
No.
Because the only thing sitting on the car was an engine manual.
Exactly.
For a Charger. Yeah, you don't have driving instructions. So
now,
I guess she drove a car in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, that's another question I had that I'd like to see is, how did she actually learn how to do that? Because she was pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And fortunately for Rollins, she doesn't use that knife on him.
Yeah.
I was a little worried there for a minute.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then, of course, we get the scenes where she gets stuck in the container, gets out and gets away, gets shot.
Yep.
And then we last see her in a convenience store, bleeding all over the guy's floor.
I know. That's messy.
Asking for directions back to Port Canaan.
Yeah.
And we go, well, this isn't going to help your cause any, Reese, because this will get out.
So if she's asking for, and that's the thing, if she jumped off the dock at the shipyard, right after, split second after they got her in the shoulder there, that's how, and she disappears in the water, they're firing at her. Nope, they got her before she jumped in, because we saw that.
Right.
She doesn't appear to have any other bullet wounds on her. So she dove in the water and she made her getaway via swimming in the water. Now she asked the convenience store clerk, who probably just mopped the floor.
Yeah.
And he's like, what's all this? Give me directions back to Port Canaan. How far did you swim?
Exactly.
I mean, like, the shipyard there would have to be near at least a tributary to a larger body of water.
Exactly.
How far did you swim if you need to, like, they didn't show the guy saying you're in Port Canaan.
Right.
So how the heck far did she go? Even being wounded, that would be a feat. I mean, without being detected anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And and then makes it on ground, makes it into a convenience store. I mean, is this convenience store like the only one in the middle of a highway that like truckers only go to once every 3 hours?
Right.
And tell me how to get back there. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Now, like I said in our previous episode, if she doesn't have a -EL after her name somewhere,
right?
I mean, I'm going to be like really upset.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone that live tweeted this episode. It was a lot of fun tweeting with all of you, and had a lot of familiar people that I have tweeted with from other genre shows, and of course some new ones. So. Thank you for all the likes, retweets, and interaction. And a special thanks goes out to Steven for leaving the following message on our webpage. Thanks for the heads up on the podcast and for the following on Twitter. Looking forward to future podcasts. #TheCrossing. So thanks a lot, Steven. He had sent me a direct message and asked about where he could find the podcast.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Welcome aboard, Stephen. And we just want to ask you to please review and rate us over on iTunes. With good ratings and reviews, it helps other fans of the show find us. So tell your friends, and we hope that you are enjoying our podcast.
And there are several ways you can get a hold of us. On the Twitter machine, we are at 47 Survivors. On Facebook, we're at FG Zone. Believe it or not, we have an Instagram account at the Fangirl Zone Podcast. And if you want to email us, you can reach us at contactus@fangirlzone.com.
Wow. That's like all techied up.
Yeah.
I feel so much better now. And so, again, thanks for listening, everybody, and join us next time for our next get-together. And this is Terry signing off saying, I'll eat some fruit, but I'd rather have chocolate.
And this is Steve. You don't need a weapon. You are a weapon. And until next time.
See ya.